Okay, Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your personal Praxis success story. You are technically a 4-year graduate, so I'm really excited to talk to you today about just like who you were before Praxis and now what you're up to currently. Maybe to start us off, you can kind of give the 2-minute synopsis of what you were doing before Praxis and where you are in your current life.
Yeah. So initially, I wanted to do Praxis just immediately out of high school, but I ended up taking a gap year just because there were some things I wanted to focus on. I wanted to do like speech and debate and also like work on some freelance stuff, just kind of to start out my career in video production. But after that gap year, I immediately went into Praxis. I was really excited about it. I'd heard about Praxis from uh, Isaac Morehouse. Oh, he went to an economics camp that I went to, and he talked about it there. And he also talked about it at a homeschool convention that I attended. And I was just like immediately sold. I was like, I didn't want to go to college. I wasn't sure that college would help me fulfill the goals that I had in mind. And it turned out Praxis was the model that I was looking for. And I was just immediately like, yep, that's what I want to do.
Awesome. So let's backtrack a little bit, actually.
Sure.
You graduated from high school. What was the decision-making process for you when you decided to be a college opt-out?
Well, it was sort of, I recognized that like school is awesome, you learn a lot of stuff, but the job I wanted to do wasn't really a job that you have to study a lot of different, like you don't have to go and get a bachelor's degree where you have a generalized education in math. You don't have to do like 4 years of all these generalized studies in order to be able to do that craft. You really just need the skills and the experience. And I was not quite certain that I would have gained that experience at quite the speed that I was interested in. I didn't want to sit around for 4 years accumulating debt. I wanted to get into the thing that I was passionate about. And I was already doing it by myself, just like making YouTube videos, doing podcasts, creating all sorts of media by myself. And I just needed that professional experience to show, hey, I can do this and I can also make money from it. And I wasn't really interested in spending 4 years doing college because like it's a great experience for lots of people, but I wasn't just in it for an experience, and I don't want to pay a bunch of money, thousands and thousands of dollars for an experience unless that experience is going to benefit me.
So for you at the time, you knew you were really interested in like film and video production, and
Hmm.
at that age, you looked out on the horizon and you were like, okay, my options are A, go to film school, or B, try to figure this out on my own. Would you say that's
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
And then what was it in your gap year of exploring film and video production that made you say, okay, I'm doing okay, but I need to take this to the next level, or I'm missing something in this, self-taught education?
Hmm. And actually, like growing up, I was homeschooled, and my parents even just encouraged me to pursue different skills that I wanted to accumulate, even as early, I think, as being like 13 years old. I remember them like encouraging me to go after apprenticeships of sorts. And like I wrote for an author at one point, kind of helped him edit his books and do blog posts for him. And I'd been doing this video stuff for maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 years before I got to that gap year. And that gap year, I spent some time doing stuff on Upwork, just kind of taking random freelance gigs. And I recognized like I could do this, but I didn't want to just be a person who like gets random gigs and lives in his parents' house for the rest of his life, like doing odd jobs to make enough money to keep his parents happy. I wanted to find a place that would take me as a video person. And I figured that kind of the best way to do that was to go through the Praxis program, because then I could learn the skills that were necessary to pitch myself to somebody. Because I knew I wasn't that great at pitching myself to people. Like, yeah, I make videos. I also have a ton of self-doubt about my abilities because I'm just branching out into this. You know how it is. Like you're going into the job market, and like you look at the people who have been in the job market for so long, and you're like, wow, I don't have anything compared to them. And Praxis was really instrumental in showing me that I do have a lot of potential and I do have a lot of value, and kind of showing me how to communicate that value to an employer who might think, well, you haven't been at this for a long time. And I'm like, no, but no, I have been at it for a long time, and here's the proof of that.
Yeah, I love that. So it was kind of like a bridge to overcoming imposter syndrome and also like
Yeah.
professionalizing what your current skills and being able to bring it to the next level.
Hmm.
Cool. So then when you entered the program, what was your experience like? What were some of the, unexpected things you learned there, top skills?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I wasn't really prepared for, or I guess I knew about it slightly, but I wasn't expecting how much of a game changer it would be, was there's a module where we wrote a blog post every day for 30 days. And it was lots of fun. And like, it seemed like it was just kind of like, yeah, that's a thing. It's normal. And I did it. And it really opened my eyes to kind of recognizing how to write in a way that communicates information effectively. Because start of the program, I was like, oh yeah, write these essays that are just really long, and it was just draining. And throughout that module, like, they showed us how, like, here's how to use some different techniques to communicate information briefly, because no one wants to read a 10-page article when you could just write a one-page article and get the point across.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
a few other things, I guess. I wasn't quite prepared for like how a sort of a mindset. There's a certain mindset that comes with the program, that they teach you kind of how to be your own person. I remember there was one call, it was like a philosophy discussion, and it was one of the first ones we did. And at one point, like, they asked us a question, and like maybe half of us were like raising our hands in the call. And TK at the time, he was leading the call, and he was like, "Stop raising your hands. This isn't school. We're just having a discussion." And that was kind of an eye opener. Just like, right, this isn't school. You don't have to ask permission to provide value. You can just do it. And that was really cool, just to kind of like reframing perspective as far as the value and the potential that people have to offer the world.
I love that. Yeah, that's a really great example of just some of the little nuggets that come out of, our workshops and calls that we have weekly. What would you say are some of the skills or like specific mindset qualities that you hold on to even today in your current career?
Yeah, I think that overall the biggest thing is probably just provide value. Just the idea that you're not here to earn a paycheck, or you're not here to just show up and be in the office. You're there to provide value on a daily basis, and providing that value, finding constant ways to just go to the next level so far as doing things that are actually valuable for your employer, not just like the things that they tell you to do, but the things that are actually going to make a difference. And that's the sort of thing that I think most Praxis participants, they carry with them, and they don't even maybe like think about it on a constant basis. It's just a mindset and like a perspective that forms the way that they just excel in the workplace.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Would you say that during the program you had a very specific vision for the outcome that you wanted from your experience? Yeah.
Yes, it was actually like very, possibly scarily specific, and it actually ended up turning out quite the way I imagined it. And it kind of, like, some people didn't quite understand it. So the way I had it envisioned was that I would get an apprenticeship somewhere. I had no idea what state, but I figured it probably wouldn't be my home state of Indiana. And I would go through the modules and then get that apprenticeship, move out for the period of the apprenticeship, that being like 6 months. And maybe I'd like really fall in love with the place I was working and move there. But truly, what I believed I would do and wanted to do was return to my home state of Indiana, use the experience I'd gained at the apprenticeship, and that work experience that I can put on the resume and say, I worked for 6 months at a company, and use that to find a job in Indiana. And what actually ended up happening was I went out to San Francisco to start my apprenticeship there. And 3 months in, they offered me a full-time job. They were just like, "Hey, can we like pay you twice as much and just make sure that we keep you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, pay me twice as much. I am perfectly okay with that." But it ended up working out that I was only out there for 7 months before being offered a job back in Indiana. And I accepted that job, moved right back, and it worked actually quite perfectly, because the company ended up going through some changes in marketing, like in the marketing team, a bunch of people ended up changing positions and stuff. So it was actually a really simple transition to move back to Indiana right at that point.
So what was the business partner that you did your apprenticeship with, and what was the role that you were hired for there?
Yeah, so it was a company called Autopilot. They're a marketing CRM solution and based in San Francisco. And I was hired as a video marketer on the marketing team.
Awesome. What were some of the responsibilities you had starting off in your apprenticeship?
Yeah, so my main responsibilities, pretty much handling anything that needed to be captured with a video camera. So that included video as well as like corporate headshots. I handled actually scheduling and getting corporate headshots for everyone in the company. We didn't have great ones before that, and so we did that. I also handled, editing and production of all video content as well. So uh, I guess also in that vein, handling the scheduling and preparing of like any ideas for videos. So if anyone had an idea, like we want to make a landing page and we want to have a certain video on that landing page, Ryan, can you write up a script to work with that landing page and all the information on it? Can you also make sure to schedule and get the video done soon? And that's what I would do.
Awesome. What were some of like the unexpected skills that you ended up learning, maybe responsibilities outside of your
Mhm.
original role area?
Yeah, I think one thing that I definitely got a huge a bit of experience in that I was not expecting. The guy that I ended up working with, he was actually one of the Praxis counselors, Josh Vector, and he was the, I think his term was growth hacker of the company. And it was just crazy. When I first got there, we didn't do a ton of video like right off. He wasn't like, okay, here, have some files, go edit. It was actually the first thing that we did was he showed me kind of different strategies he was using to build growth in his Facebook group that he was building, just a bunch of marketers and founders in that area. And that marketing group, it was really small, maybe like 5,000 people at the time, and it's just grown. He's still doing it. He's still got that massive community following him, and just kind of learning like, okay, this isn't just like post a picture on your Facebook page and that's going to get all your marketing needs taken care of. No, it's like actually seeking out and building your community and your presence online and providing that value and making sure that it actually reaches people rather than just assuming Facebook's going to handle it and the algorithm's going to totally serve you, right? No, and so it was just crazy, like all the sorts of things that happen behind the scenes that help drive growth on a Facebook page in addition to all the posting you're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of that aids you today, like when you transitioned into your, new role and position.
Yeah.
So how exactly did you make that switch back to Indiana happen? Were you like actively seeking that, or somebody at a
Hmm.
company reached out to you?
Yeah, so it was really kind of, I guess, providential how it ended up happening. I went back to Indiana for a period of a few weeks, and that was for a like kind of a half vacation, half work remotely sort of deal that I had arranged with Autopilot. They were awesome about like if you get the job done, then you could work from Tahiti if you wanted to. And so I had taken a plane back to Indiana. I was living with my parents, just kind of hanging out, visiting family and friends and stuff. And I was mentioning like I'd like to find a job here soon. And my aunt actually, it was like at my sister's birthday party. My aunt pulled out her phone and she was like, "Well, there's this company like right here in town." And it was like the town I grew up in. My parents didn't live there anymore, but the town I grew up in was hiring for a video producer at a mortgage company. And I was kind of like, a mortgage company? That sounds so boring. But I was like, I'll buy it. I'll see what goes on there. And actually, I applied for the job and then didn't hear anything back. Ended up flying back to San Francisco, and then I heard back, and the guy was like, "Hey, can I interview you?" And it's my current marketing manager actually who was interviewing me, and I was like, "Yes, but I am no longer in that state. Can we do Skype?" And he was like, "Yeah, we can do Skype." And he ended up interviewing me, And it was the day that they were announcing all of these changes on the marketing team at Autopilot that I actually got an accepted offer in the email, or in my email from the manager of the mortgage company. And it was really crazy timing. It was like, yeah, they're making all these changes, and I'm not sure what my position at this company is moving forward if they're making these changes. And I've got a job back home in Indiana. Yes, please.
Wow, wow, that really lines up perfectly. And you're right, like
Right.
the exact goals you went into the program with, everything just ended up being fulfilled. What was your confidence level at that time when you were kind of making that career or job transition?
Yeah, I think I was definitely a lot more confident in my role after my apprenticeship, just because, like, going into my apprenticeship, I wasn't super confident. I was like trying to prove myself, and I'm in the big San Francisco city, and all these people are like doing these next level marketing tricks, and I'm like, I'm just a hick from Indiana. I don't know what I'm doing, but I was learning, and I was just absorbing everything like I could, like a sponge. And my confidence in my abilities, I think, really shot up when the company offered me the full-time job there, just kind of saying, yeah, we think that you do great work, and we're willing to pay you not an apprenticeship salary, but twice that. Like, my salary literally doubled overnight, and it was just insane. And that it was sort of the confirmation that I needed to say, like, yes, you can do this. This is something that people value.
So it seems like overall your Praxis program experience was pretty smooth sailing. Like you had very
Hmm.
specific goals, you achieved those goals. What were some of the parts that were maybe more of hidden personal struggles that you went through?
Hidden personal, like, what do you mean by that?
So like, did you have to face issues with time management? Did you have to face issues with
Mhm.
just like holding yourself accountable to getting a bunch of things done?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I kind of had to learn was how to keep myself accountable to continuing to learn how to find more effective strategies of doing my job. And a really quick example of that is that, so in video editing, I think probably the biggest part of my job is the editing process. It just takes forever to trim through footage, to cut out the unnecessary bits and arrange everything to look really good. And one thing that I learned that I could do was to watch YouTube videos that helped me to hone my abilities, learn about new ways to edit that are just way more efficient. And I think the biggest thing that I struggled with was maintaining a balance of continuing to learn and also just continuing to do my job. Because, like, there's that one side where it's like, oh, well, if I watch all these YouTube videos, then I'll get better at my job and I'll be more beneficial to my company. But then there's this other side of it that's like, okay, but if you're watching YouTube videos all day, you're not helping your company. So finding that balance where you're continuing to learn and build your skills on the job, but also provide value on the job at the same time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's just kind of like figuring out how to navigate that learning curve while still making sure you're
Right.
present with your
Right.
responsibilities in day to day. That makes sense. What were your, friends and family's reactions to, this kind of series of unconventional choices that you made?
Hmm. I know that at least my family, I remember there was like a conversation where they were really confused why I was taking a job back in Indiana. And it kind of hurt a little bit. I was like, guys, I'm coming home. Aren't you happy that I'm coming home? And they're like, yeah, but the job in Indiana pays less than San Francisco. And it was a little bit of it like, there is an exchange rate sort of. So the job I was taking at home was equivalent based on like cost of living. So the cost to live out San Francisco is crazy. So yeah, you get paid more, but if you get paid less in Indiana, it doesn't cost as much to live at the same time. So it's kind of equivalent as far as that is concerned. But they were definitely like, wouldn't you want to just continue living in the big city and like find an awesome job out there and make hundreds of thousands of dollars? But truly, like, I think that was just an area where it was like, I have certain values and I'm going to keep chasing after goals that are in line with those values. And one of those was just being in a place where I can be with friends and family, because that's important, pouring that time into friends and family as I can.
Yeah. So piggybacking off of that to, current day, you're still
Hmm.
working with the same company.
Yep.
How would you say, all those, goals aligning with your core values of being close to family, How has that panned out? How has your role changed to today from when you first started and all that good
Hmm.
stuff?
My role today, it's actually, I guess it's grown slightly because when I first joined the company, I was a second video producer on the team. We had another one who had been there for a year or two. And at this point, that video producer moved to work specifically with one of our bigger branches and only focus on video production for that branch. So they're out of the corporate office, they're working at that branch's corporate location, sort of. And so I now handle all the video of everyone. And so I kind of went from sort of the lackey who's showing up and like helping the other video producer, and it's like, yes, I'll help you and do anything you pass on to me. And now it's like I handle everything. And it's really cool to just sort of be able to take that and make it my own. And my manager's awesome as far as that's concerned, just in giving me the latitude to decide what I want to work on and handle any requests that come in, and just like he doesn't really check up on me and like, are you doing your job? He just kind of trusts me that I'm doing it, and I'll finish video projects and he'll be like, oh, that is a really awesome video. And I might not have even been aware that you were making that video, but you did a great job.
That's
And
awesome.
as far as like my goals and everything, it actually moving back ended up leading to me getting married. I've been married actually, we just had our 2-year anniversary. So we got married, I think it was the summer after I moved back. I moved back in the fall. So about 9 months later, we were married. And so I've been able to start my own family in that way. And it's really awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
it's always amazing to see how things just work out like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, what about goals in terms of your career over the next 2 to 3 years? Are you looking to move in any specific direction? Are you just kind of happy with where you are right now?
Hmm. Yeah, I think honestly that's kind of up to God at this point because I generally have like I can have goals and I can have dreams. Like one dream that I have that I'm not necessarily certain if it'll ever become a reality, but it'd be amazing to be like a YouTuber. Like just kind of make my own fun content, and it's something that enough people enjoy that it can be monetized. But I also realize that that's kind of a lottery. That's not necessarily something that everyone can do because it's very algorithm based and you have to get it just right. And so, like, if God decides to make me a YouTuber, that would be awesome. Another more realistic thing that I could do is just create kind of my own video production business, helping small businesses, because that's one thing that has been a dream probably since that gap year that I was talking about earlier. Was just an idea that I could just make videos for like contact small businesses and say, hey, you don't have the money to pay this massive multimedia company to make you video content, but I can produce it at a reduced rate and give it to you. And that is a business model I've run the numbers. It would work because if I make the videos for enough companies at the same time, then it's enough to keep the business floating. And that's an idea I've had in my head for a while, and we've sort of played around with it with freelance projects here and there, just kind of testing the waters, building that base of clientele, and that would be interesting to do. I don't know if I would do